Welcome to the SmartTechCheck podcast, hosted by Mark Vina, your home for candid, insightful, and provocative conversations about the smart home automation, security, smartphones, PC and console gaming, and much more.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Vina, host of the SmartTechCheck podcast. Today is Monday, April 3rd, 2023. Infineon made some big news a few weeks ago with its acquisition of GaN Systems for $830 million. It's an interesting acquisition as it promises to buttress and reinforce Infineon's leadership position in the power systems category with more energy efficient and CO2 saving solutions. To discuss this acquisition and the strategy behind the acquisition, I'm joined by Adam White, Infineon's Division President of Power and Sensor Systems. Adam, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Mark, and thanks for hosting this. I'm very much looking forward to our discussions today.
No, I appreciate your time, and this is a big acquisition. It's one of these acquisitions that companies acquire companies all the time. Some of them make sense, some of them don't make sense, but this one struck me in that I really think it complements what Infineon's already doing in the space. We're going to go into that in some detail. What I'd like to do, though, what I typically do before I get into the meat of the podcast, I'd like to bring up a slide to talk about your background, because I always find that. So let's do that, and let's talk about who you are, what you do, and we'll go from there.
Fantastic. Yeah. So I've had the honor to be working in the semiconductor industry for over 25 years. So it's been a privilege of obviously looking at the evolution and in some areas the revolution of this industry. So, and definitely how that's having an impact on decarbonization as well as digitalization. From the graduation school, I went into a company called International Rectifier. I think it's known to probably many of your listeners, really a powerhouse there in power management. And then International Rectifier was actually acquired by Infineon Technologies back in 2015. And that's where I joined Infineon. And very much looking forward to continuing this journey of innovation and addressing power systems and supporting the customers and their use cases.
You know what? And we're going to get into this in the podcast. What's interesting to me about what Infineon does, and I've been following you folks for several years now, is that Infineon is a company that many consumers, many end users don't know, because you typically are an ingredient in another product that they do recognize. And, power systems is a very interesting category because, again, without power systems and the various products that we take for granted every day, you wouldn't be able to use them, because power systems have to obviously perform a variety of different functions. We're now in a world getting more cognizant of energy efficiency and CO2 reduction. So it's a very interesting category, and I really do want to add some color into that. So let's go into that right off the bat. How does the acquisition make sense? I mean, I think would love to hear it from your perspective. And most importantly, how is it impacting the roadmap in Infineon, and how are you going to comprehend this to ultimately grow their presence in the market, the power systems presence of Infineon in the market?
Okay, exactly, Mark. So first of all, Infineon, we're very proud of our innovation. We're, of course, very proud of our manufacturing, our quality, and the incredible talent that is housed within Infineon. We're very much along the lines of addressing the customer problems, working with the customers, understanding their use cases, and then really now addressing a number of solutions that ultimately provides a value proposition. And here, whether it's in the areas of chargers, servers, solar, from residential right away through to mobility in automotive, you'll find Infineon Technologies housed in a number of those systems. And we're very proud for over 40 years, really supporting the industry and more to the point, addressing what I mentioned earlier on, this supporting decarbonization as well as, of course, digitalization. Now, particularly on GaN systems, why are we so enthusiastic about it? We see now today, in order for us to address the systems, we believe wholeheartedly you need silicon technologies, you need silicon carbide technologies, as well as gallium nitride technology-based solutions. And it really depends upon what is the application, what is the topologies, what are the use cases that you can then really select the right solution with the customer to join their roadmap for a successful outcome. So we of course, we continue to expand and innovate on all three base technologies. And this gives us then this amazing opportunity to walk to our R&D at our customer base to then really show them, where these wide bandgap technologies, namely silicon carbide or gallium nitride, coupled with silicon, can really also have a significant benefit at a system level. And, and again, we must be very clear when we talk about the switches, whether that's in the silicon carbide, whether that's in gallium nitride or in silicon, you also need the complementary drivers as well as control ICs to get the best out of a particular solution.
Now, you talked a little bit about the, and I call it the siliconization of the power system space. Can we talk about how that manifests itself? And like one category, for example, that to me is becoming really interesting is people now who are putting solar panels in their home. They want to reduce their carbon footprint as much as possible. The idea of having power systems in your house with batteries that are it's not just about, powering your house, but, storing electricity, energy for future use, which, of course, minimizes your cost, which if you're in California like I am, it's always a big deal. So let's talk about some of the applications, if you don't mind, for a couple of moments.
Yeah, so let's stick on the residential solar. It's a great topic. And today, again, Infineon and our talented team are very proud of working with the who's who in residential solar. And, a lot of those solutions are built out today with the traditional silicon solutions. And of course, they add significant benefit of changing the sun energy into usable battery or electricity ultimately for the user. Now, moving forward, we also recognize that it depends upon which topologies that you are using within residential solar. I'm sure as a user like yourself, you need to think through, okay, which one is going to be maybe better efficiency, converting the sun ultimately into electricity. You may also look at the size. How to reduce the size and the density to make it look ultimately maybe even nicer on your home, for example. And then finally, with size and density also comes with cost benefits. Of course, if you can make things smaller in general, that there's also a potential system benefit at the cost of the system as well. So this is just one example. The other areas is to do with chargers and adapters. I don't know about yourself, but it wasn't so long ago I used to carry, 2, 3, 4 different chargers, one for my notebook, one for my tablet, one for my electronic watch, for example, and one for my smartphone. Moving forward, we're enabling now with gallium nitride solutions that you can power up to 120 watts or greater than 60 watt chargers, very small form factor that can charge a number of devices at once with smart charging capabilities there to make them more efficient and obviously smaller for when we're on the road. The other areas is servers. Ultimately servers, when you look at rack servers, for example, there's a certain amount of footprint where you want to basically compute the data intelligently, maybe through AI or certain amount of system technology. But if you can actually reduce the power supply size within these rack servers, you can actually potentially put even more compute power in the same footprint. So here it's about this green energy that we call green server energy that also gallium nitride also supports. And the final example that we see adopting now is the onboard charger. We see gallium nitride and the engineers of onboard chargers for electric vehicles very much gravitating to gallium nitride in certain of the applications. Again, depends upon certain topologies, but ultimately here you can ensure that it's higher efficiency levels, and of course you get the size, the density, performance benefits as well. So these are the types of applications that we see adopting. But again, we put a lot of money into this acquisition. Plus, we're putting a lot of money standalone within gallium nitride because we fundamentally believe we are nearing a tipping point, not just for those applications, but many other applications moving forward.
Right. Well, you talked a bit about this from a product standpoint. Let's talk about some specifics here and the complementary nature of the portfolio, because that's the thing that's always interesting to me about these acquisitions that almost happen every day here in the tech space, is that very often you see acquisitions that, at first glance, kind of makes sense, doesn't make sense. And this is one of the few acquisitions I've seen recently that really has a complementary and synergistic effect between both organizations. So can we talk a bit about specifics from a product standpoint?
Yeah, well, thanks for recognizing that. And here, what we'll do with the successful closing, and I must stress, we've got to go through the correct regulatory approvals. But upon the closing, we will basically double the portfolio of available products for our customers. On top of that, with that, we will also effectively 2x the design funnel that we will see standalone versus us joining forces together. And then on top of that, we also now will have over 350 IP families that will also be part of this joint company at the end of the day, with GaN Systems joining Infineon. So with that, we will of course have the switches, and GaN Systems actually has a little bit of a different technology than what we have today within Infineon, but very complementary, because the two different technologies is a function of how you switch an application, hard switching, soft switching, for example. Also, whether you're doing very high frequency switching, that is also a function of which technology that the customers will naturally gravitate to. Also, one of the synergies is GaN Systems has also developed a very unique package family, which we are looking forward to supporting and rolling out within our portfolio here within Infineon. And here, Infineon will, of course, embrace the ability to support systems with the ICs, the integrated circuits. These are the areas, for example, with driver technology as well as controller technologies as well. So this synergy, as you say, we're very much looking forward to it. Ultimately, we'll give our customers a lot more options to consider. And with those options, we believe that we'll be able to find the sweet spot for the value proposition.
Do you have any sense on the feedback you've gotten from some of your customers on this, in terms of, I have to imagine they have reacted with a lot of enthusiasm, given the products that these technologies go into are multi-$1,000, very often class type of products, and they like to deal with ingredient companies like Infineon that inspire confidence, they can execute on time. It's not really, they do not want to deal with, a lot of companies that have technology that haven't been proven in the market. So can you give me a sense for some feedback you might have gotten from some of the partners you work with?
Yeah, so honestly, the customer feedback has been very, very positive. I can only speak on the Infineon customer base, and of course, upon close, we will get the feedback, no doubt, from the GaN Systems customers. But it's been very impactful, meaning that the customers are one, very excited about gallium nitride and the potential it brings. Really to see the R&D community and CTOs of customers where they can really embrace and unleash the potential of gallium nitride. There's no doubt about it. We see so much excitement from the customer base as well as the industry. The feedback has also been, yeah, you know what, Infineon, we always see you very strong in the power management space, in the system space. You really reinforced your seriousness and your focus of continuing to support our requirements, regardless of the technology base. And what do I mean by that? Of course, we have been very strong leader in the industry and the silicon today. We continue our journey on the silicon carbide. Now the customers now see very much we're serious on the gallium nitride as well. So I've really seen a very strong feedback from the customers. Those who are ahead of the design curves are extremely excited. And we see some customers that have been thinking about adopting into gallium nitride now coming to us and saying, wow, this is serious. Now Infineon are making such a bold step. We better start listening and understanding the opportunities this technology brings to our applications as well. So overarching, Mark, very, very, very delighted to hear the positive feedback, the embracement of the customers, and we look forward to working with them because this is a different technology and it's not a drop-in replacement for silicon. You've got to use it differently, you've got to drive it differently. But when engineering companies really take time to understand how to use the technology, wow, they really see the benefits.
Sure. Well, this is the most fun part of the podcast for me. I always like to kind of talk about what are the trends, maybe some future trends. The technology that you're enabling with this does have application in a variety of different different areas. So let's talk about a bit, maybe a couple of the trends that you see in the power system segment.
Yeah, so look, I mean, there's a number of ways that you could address this, but one thing is very clear that how we use electricity is not going to go away in the near term. We become more and more hungry for devices, for the ease of our lives. And of course, electricity is, whether it's in battery form, for example, or through the grids, through solar, whatever it may be, there's definitely a consumption there that continues to grow. So here, how to make, efficiency of converting those sources into an application continues to be very, very key. The other area is it depends upon the application, but again, the size of applications are becoming very, very relevant and very important. If sometimes you can make something with improved density, meaning the size of the object or the solution, then that can also bring the intrinsic values to an application. And ultimately, used correctly, this technology can also bring power systems benefits from a cost perspective as well. Not only at what I call a functional discrete level, but at a system cost benefits. And that's something that a number of our customers are very keen to adopt and to understand. And these trends, we believe, will continue to be there for the foreseeable future. I just leave you, just look about how much data that we are creating and our appetite to use on a daily basis, whether it's on the videos, whether it's on certain levels of safety features on vehicles now. And of course, we believe that when you look at that, how to make servers more greener as an example, how to make sure every time we click a button or download information or compute data, that we can make that in a way that is more efficient, and that then I believe that will bring overarching benefits for those types of applications. So these are exciting times, but we believe fundamentally we're at the beginning of this in this industry, and you see the appetite of semiconductors over the last recent years, and we believe that our addressable markets will continue to grow, and that's why we as Infineon are very much supporting the growth of all three technologies: silicon carbide, as well as gallium nitride.
Yeah, and I guess the last question I would just ask you before we kind of conclude the podcast is that, since AI has been in the news, you can't talk to anybody out here at Silicon Valley without someone asking you about, hey, what do you think, the impact of AI is going to be? AI has some interesting implications for even this kind of capability from a predictive analysis standpoint, where you can really do a nice job of predicting when something's going to fail. I imagine this is really kind of a what if question, but how do you see AI being comprehended in power systems over time?
Yeah, so we're actually using AI in multiple areas, whether it's actually going in, of course, into designing, for example, or manufacturing. We have a lot of AI and machine learning capabilities to improve our productivity, just to give you one example. But in the systems area, there's a great point. We see predictive maintenance is one of the key topics that is a major trend in the industry. We've now are, of course, bolstering up our capability to do predictive maintenance. And here, AI, coupled with the machine learning, is giving significant opportunities to support the customers, and really giving them opportunities to recognize maybe a deviation of their overarching system performance. So again, wide bandgap will also play a role in that with silicon. So this is just one of those topics, which is what we classify as a mega trend, and we see those mega trends definitely being our friends at Infineon.
Yeah, and just to wrap this up, Adam, when do you see the acquisition getting formalized? Because obviously it has to be approved and before you move ahead, but any idea?
Yeah, exactly. So we obviously got the formal regulatory approvals, and we believe that those should be closing by the end of this calendar year.
Well, that's great. Well, Adam, thank you for taking the time to join me for today's podcast. I've got some QR codes up here. Thanks for taking the time to join me for today's podcast. For our viewing and listening audience, thanks for making the SmartTechCheck podcast part of your day or commute. Please make sure that you hit the like and subscribe buttons at the end of today's podcast, or use these on-screen QR codes to connect with me and get some further information about the GaN acquisition. You can also follow me on Twitter at Mark Vina Tech Guy. And until next time, have a great week. And thanks again, Adam, for joining the podcast.
Thank you, Mark, and thanks to your listeners.